Okay, greetings one and all, and welcome to this math video. In this math video, we'll be considering the topic comparing fractions, decimals, and percentages. Comparing fractions, decimals, and percentages. Let's begin. Okay, let's consider this question. It says, copy the statement below, then write less than, greater than, or equal to in each space to make the statement or to make each statement correct. Here we have 3 to the second power and we have 2 to the third power. And the question is, which one is bigger? Is 3 squared bigger than 2 to the third power? Is 2 to the third power bigger than 3 squared? Or are they actually equal? And so in order to answer this question, let's consider using calculator. And so if we look at a calculator, we can figure out the value of 3 to the second power. And so let's use it. So we have 3 to the second power, 3 to the power of 2, okay? And 3 to the second power, or 3 to the power of 2, is 3 times 3. And we know that 3 times 3 is definitely 9. So we have 9. So 3 squared is equal to 9. But what is 2 to the third power? What is that? 2 to the power of 3, that's 2 to the third power, is definitely 2 times 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 times 2 is definitely 8. So what does that mean? That means that 3 to the second power is equal to 9, and 2 to the third power equals to 8. And so let's make a note of that. 3 to the second power is 9, and then 2 to the third power is definitely equal to 8. So what does that mean? We know that 9 is greater than 8, and so that means that 3 squared is definitely greater than 2 to the third power. Next, we have 3 to the power of 0 and 2 to the power of 0. Now, the question is, are these two numbers, is 3 to the power of 0 greater than it? Greater than 2 to the power of 0, or is 2 to the power of 0 greater than 3 to the power of 0, or are they equal? Well, let's consider our calculator to see the exact value of these numbers. So we have 3 to the power of 0, and 3 to the power of 0 is definitely 1, right? So 3 to the power of 0 is 1. What is 2 to the power of 0? 2 to the power of 0 is also going to be 1. So 3 to the power of 0 is 1, and 2 to the power of 0 is 1. That means these two quantities are equal. In fact, any number raised to the power of 0 is going to be equal to 1. And so we have that 3 to the power of 0 and 2 to the power of 0, well, they both equal 1. So 3 to the power of 0 equals 1, 2 to the power of 0 equals 1. And so that means that they are both equal. Move right along, let's consider 3 to the power of a negative 1 and 2 to the power of negative 1. Now for this one, we can use a calculator to determine the values of these numbers. We have 3 to the power of negative 1. So 3 to the power of negative 1. So let's raise 3 to the power of negative 1. What does that give us? Well, 3 to the power of negative 1 is equal to 0.333333 and continuing on. If we were to use just the if we were to round this to 2 decimal places, it'll just be 0.33. So 3 to the power of negative 1 to 2 decimal places is 0.33. Okay? Now let's consider what is 2 to the power of negative 1. So 2 to the power of negative 1, let's see what is that. Well, that's going to be equal to 0.5 or 0.50. Okay, so we have 0.33 and we have 0.50 or 0.50. And so the question is, which one is bigger? Is 0.5. Now, even though they don't put the extra 0, it's still there. 0.5 is the same thing as 0.50, okay? And so we have 0.50 and we have 0.33. Which one is bigger? All right. Obviously, we know that 0.5 is bigger. So if we look at it, we have 3 to the power of negative 1 is approximately equal to 0.33, and 2 to the power of negative 1 is equal to 0.5. And so that definitely means that 2 to the power of negative 1 is greater than 3 to the power of negative 1. This is very important. The alligator eats the bigger number, and so this means that 2 to the power of negative 1 is greater than 3 to the power of negative 1. Now let's move on to the next question. Here we have, it's saying copy the statements below, then write the symbol less than, greater than, or equal to in each space to make each statement correct. Here we have 5 and 1/4%, and we have 5.25. Now, are these equal to each other, less than, or are they equal to each other? Is 5 and 1 over 4 greater than 5.25, or is 5.25 greater than 5 and 1 over 4%? So let's iterate that again. This time, hopefully better. Is 5 and 1 over 4% greater than 5.25? Or is 5.25 greater than 5 and 1 over 4%? Or are these two quantities equal? Now, what's worthy to note is that we have 5 and 1 over 4. Now, 5 and 1 over 4, well, if we know 1 over 4, right? 1 over 4 equals to, well, that's equal to 0.25. That's what 1 over 4 is. 1 over 4 is equal to 0.25. That's what 1 over 4 is. Okay. And then if we do 5 and 1 over 4, that means that 5 and 1 over 4 is just going to be equal to 5 and 1 over 4. Okay. 5 and 1 over 4. It's just going to be equal to 5 plus, right? 5 plus 1 over 4. Now, what is 1 over 4? Well, 1 over 4 is 0.25. So it's basically equal to 5 plus 0.25. And it's going to be equal to 5.25. And that's very important to note, because what this basically is saying is that we have 5.25%. So what if we were to, change this with this base, instead of having it as a mixed number, what we could do is we could say, hey, listen, this right here, this whole quantity is the same thing as saying 5.25, 5.25%. Okay, this is 5.25%. Now, is 5.25% equal to 5.25? Are they the same? Or is 5.25 greater than 5.25%? Or is 5.25% greater than 5.25? And so in order to figure that out, let's go to the calculator and figure out what is 5.25%. Like, what is that written as a percent? Okay? And so let's do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 5.25%. All right? And so let's do it. So we have 5.25, and we have the percent sign, and let's put equal. And that's equal to 0.0525. Another way you can find the percentage if you just divide by 100. So 5.25 divided by 100 is the way you can find a percentage. And so that's equal to 0.0525. So if we use our calculator, we find that 5.25% is actually equal to 0.0525. And so let's make a note of that, right? Let's make a note of that on our next slide. So we know that 5.25% is equal to 0.0525. It's equal to 0.0525. And so let's make a note of that. So 5 and 1 over 4% or 5.25% is equal to, right? It's equal to 0.0525. And so what does that mean? That means that this one is actually greater. Okay? That means that this is actually greater. That means that 5.25 is actually greater than 5.25%. All right, so let's say it again. What is this telling us? This is telling us that what? This is telling us that 5.25 is greater than, this is greater than 5.25% or 5.25%. Okay, so 5.25 by itself without the percentage is actually greater. Now this one, the next one, we have 17.04099 and we have 17.04909. And so in order to do this, we have to compare each individual number and see where there's a difference. So here we have 1 Okay, so if we look at, we would call this the tens place. Okay, if we look at this place right here, this, these two numbers are equal to each other. So at this point, at this juncture, we cannot say if one is one, if one is greater than or not, because the the number in the tens place, both of them are equal. Let's look at the number in ones place. Well, that's 7. And this one is also 7. So again, we cannot say anything. Both of them are equal at this point. So we cannot make any distinction. For the tenths place, we look and we see 0 and 0. So both of them are the same. So we cannot say anything. Here, for the hundredths place, both of them are 4. So far, so good. Both of these numbers are equal. Now, when we reach to this when we reach to this place value, when we reach to the thousandths place, we find something interesting. We find that this one has a 9 and this one has a 0. Now, since 9 is bigger than 0, 9 is bigger than 0, that means that this number is bigger, right? It's greater than this number. And so 17.04909 is bigger or greater than 17.04099. Now let's move on to the next question. Here we have 18 over 39, and we have um, is it going to be less than, greater than, or equal to 6 over 13? What we can do just to, make it smaller and just so we could be able to manage it. Let's see what is 18 over 39 written in simple terms. So 18 over 39, let's see if written in simplest form, if we can find something that would help us. So a number that can go into both 18 and 39 is definitely 6. Okay. No, not 6, 3. 6 cannot go into both of them. 3 can. And so 18 divided by 3, let's do 18 divided by 3. And let's do 39 divided by 3. Now, 18 divided by 3 and then 39 divided by 3. All right. Now, we don't need a calculator for this one. 18 divided by 3 is definitely 6. Okay. And 39 divided by 3 is definitely 13. And so what that means is 18 over 39 when reduced is the same thing as 6 over 13. And so that means that these fractions are actually equal to each other. They are equal. All right, so 5.25 is greater than 5.25%. 17.04909 is greater than 17.04099, and 18 over 39 and 6 over 13, they are equal fractions, right? They are equal to the same numerical amount. All right, let's move on to, okay, so this is greater than, and this is equal to at the bottom. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Let's go. All right, so the next question says, 5.5%, is it greater than or equal to, is it greater than, less than, or equal to 0.055? And we have 19.03606. Is that greater than, less than, or equal to 19.03066? And we have 8 over 13 and we have 5 over 8. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to see that? Let's start off with this. We have 5.5%. Well, 5.5%. Well, we know that a half, right? You can do this in your calculator. A half is equal to 0.5. And I can show you on the calculator if you want me to. So let's look at it. So if we look at a half, it's basically 1 divided by 1 divided by 2. And so let's do that. So a half is 1 divided by, oh, let me show the calculator. So a half is, let me start from again. A half is 1. So a half is a 1. Let's do it again. A half is 1. Oh, 1 divided by 2. Okay. That's what a half is, 1 divided by 2. And that's equal to 0.5. So a half written as a fraction, sorry, a half written as a decimal is 0.5. Okay, so that's why we put 0.5 there. So we have a half, which is equal to 0.5. Okay. Now we have 5.5. So 5.5 is going to be equal to 5 plus a half. And what is 5 plus a half? Well, 5 plus a half, we know a half is equal to what? 0.5 now. So 5 plus 0.5. 5 plus 0.5. And what is 5 plus 0.5? Well, that's going to be equal to 5.5. 5.5. And so 5.5%, right, written in terms of a decimal, or with, instead of a mixed number, let's write it with a decimal. So 5.5% is basically 5.5%. Okay, 5.5%. Now we need to change 5.5% into a decimal. Okay, so the way we can do that is we can divide by 100. And so let's do that. So we're gonna go back to our calculator. And so remember, we have 5.5%. So we have 5.5%. 5.5%. That's gonna be equal to what? 0.55. So 5.5% is equal to 0.055. Now, if we go back to our question, right? If we go back to our question, we'll notice that that's exactly what we had on the other side. So we have 0.055. And so that means that these two are equal. So remember, from what it would be got on the calculator, this quantity is actually equal to 0.055. And so that means that these two quantities are actually equal to each other. And so they are equal. Let's go on to the next question. We have 19.03606 and we have 19.03066. Let's start off with the tens place. We notice that 1 is in the tens place. And though both in both cases, one is in both the in both cases, one is in the tens place. And so it's fine. They are equal so far. And then for the ones place, we see that 9 is in the ones place for both of them. So far so good. They are still equal. Then we go on to the 10th place. We find 0. Okay, so far they are still equal. And then we go here, we find 3. We find 3 as well. So they are still equal. Everything is fine. The problem comes with the 100th place. All right, so we have tens. No, we have tens, hundreds. The problem comes with the 1000th place. My apologies. For the 1000th place, we have 6 on one and 0 on the other. And so that means that we know that 6 is greater than 0. So that means that this number is bigger than this number. We don't have to check anything else. This number right here is bigger. And so that's the symbol that we use right there. We use this symbol. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Let me erase what I have here. Sorry. Let me erase what I have at the bottom to make space for what I'm about to write. Oh, it doesn't erase. Okay, so let's do something. Let's make sure that we have enough room so that when we try to compare them, everything is all right. So what we need to do is we need to consider, like, what is, if we look at 8 over 13 and we look at 5 over 8, right? If we look at them, 8 over 13 and 5 over 8, which one is bigger, which one is smaller? 8 over 13 and 5 over 8. So we have 8 over 13 and we have 5 over 8. Now, do not be fooled and say, okay, 8 is bigger than 5. So definitely, you know, this fraction is bigger. We don't know. We don't know yet. these denominators are not the same. Since the denominators are not the same, then we cannot compare them properly. We need the denominators to be the same, or what we could do is we just could convert these into decimals, all right? So we could convert 8 over 13 into decimal. We can convert 5 over 8 into decimal. And whatever decimal is bigger, then that would be the bigger one. Whatever one is smaller, that would be the smaller one. Or they may even be equal. So we have to, make sure check. So the first one we have is 8 over 13. So 8 divided by 13. That's what we mean by the fraction bar. 8 over 13 means 8 divided by 13. And so that is 0.61538461538. Let's just consider the first three. And so we're looking at 0.615. All right, if we just consider the first three. And so that's 8 over 13. What is 5 over 8? 5 over 8 is going to be 0.625. 0.625. Okay, so 5 over 8 is 0.625. So one of them is a long decimal. If we basically round it to 3 decimal places, it will be 0.615. Okay, because if we do it, remember we did it earlier, 8 divided by 13, and that's 0.615 approximately. All right. And then we did 5 over 8, and 5 over 8, that gave us 0.625. So which one is bigger? Well, we have to evaluate. Notice that in the ones place, we have 0, so they are equal from that standpoint. We have 6, and we have 6, so they are equal. Okay, so that's good. But notice here in the hundredths place, we have 1 here, and in this case, we have 2. Okay, 2 is bigger than 1, so we don't have to check any other numbers. That means that 5 over 8 is a bigger fraction than 8 over 13. Let's do another one. We have this one. It says, write the correct symbols from the list. We have greater than, less than, equal to, that will make the statements true. Notice here we have 36% and we have 0.36. So which one is bigger than, is 36% bigger than 0.36? Or are they equal? Or is 0.36 bigger than 36%? Okay, so let's move to the calculator and see what exactly is 36%. Okay, what is that? All right, what is 36%? And so if you use a calculator, you can figure what is 36%. And so that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to determine what is 36%. And so let's look at the calculator. The calculator tells us that we have 36 and percent, press equal. That's going to be equal to 0.36. 0.36. Another way to calculate the percentage is if you just divide it by 100. So 36 divided by 100, and you get 0.36. And so that means that 36% is actually equal to 0.36 written as a decimal. And like I said, you can get that by either dividing by 100 or just by using that, using the sign. And so what that means is that if you notice carefully, we have that this quantity is equal to 0.36. And this is actually equal to 0.36. So that means that they are equal. Okay, they are equal. All right, now let's move on to the next question or the next part. We have we have 1 and 4 over 5, and then we have 1.75. And so which one is bigger, less, are they equal? What's happening here? Well, if we look at 4 over 5, right? Let me write this at a different place so we wouldn't, run out of space. If we look at 4, let's do it on this side. If we look at 4 over 5, right? We do look at 4 over 5. 4 over 5 is actually equal to 4 divided by 5. And 4 divided by 5 is definitely 8, 0.8, 0.8. So 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. And if you add a 1 to it, that means that this quantity right here is going to be 1.8. So this is going to be 1.8. It's going to be 1.8 or it's going to be 1.80. All right. So 1.8 or 1.80. All right. That's what this is going to be. Now, if this is 1.8, and the way how we got 1.8 is, notice carefully, we have 1 and 4 over 5. Okay. What is 1 and 4 over 5? Well, 1 and 4 over 5 is equal to 1 plus 4 over 5. And what is 4 over 5? We just figured out that 4 over 5 is 0.8. So it's going to be 1 plus 0.8. And what is 0.8? What is 1 plus 0.8? Well, 1 plus 0.8 is definitely 1.8. 1.8. Okay, and you can put the 0 in the back to make it 1.80. It's the same. 1.8 and 1.80 is the same thing. Now, we can go on the calculator and we can figure out what is 4 divided by 5. We didn't do that, so let's look at that. 4 divided by 5, using the calculator, 4 divided by 5 is definitely 0.8. So we are correct. And so let's go back to the question. So the question says, you know, which one is bigger? Is it 1 and 4 over 5, or is it 1.75? Which one is bigger? 1 and 4 over 5, which is equal to 1.80, or 1.75, which is 1.75. Which one is bigger? Well, here in the ones place we have 1, and in ones place we have 1, so they are equal in that sense. But notice that here we have 8. In the 10th place we have 8, but then we have 7 here. 8 is greater than 7, so that means that definitely this one is bigger, right? So 1.80 or 1 and 4 over 5 is greater than 1.75. And we said that these two are equal to. Now let's look at this one. This one is, we have 1.065, 1.065, and then we have 1 and 13 over 20. 1 and 13 over 20. Well, what is 1 and 13 over 20? Can we change that into like a decimal? What is that? All right, let's first figure out what is 13 over 20, all right? 13 over 20. If we can figure what is 13 over 20, then we can figure what is 1 and 13 over 20. All right, so let's figure that out. What is 13 over 20? Let's go on the calculator and figure what is 13 over 20. Okay, so let's do that. 13 over 20, let's see what is that. 13 over 20. So we have 13 divided by 20. All right, 13 divided by 20, and that equals to 0.65. 0.65. That's 13 divided by 20. So if you have 1 and 13 over 20, that's just going to be what? 1.65. So let's do that. So let me show you what I mean. So we have 13 over 20, which is equal to what? 0.65, like we saw. 0.65. All right. And then now we have what? We have 1 and 13. 1 and 13 over 20. So that's what? 1 and 13 over 20. What is 1 and 13 over 20? That's going to be equal to 1 plus 13 over 20. Okay. 1 plus 13 over 20. But what is 13 over 20? 13 over 20 is what? 0.65. So it's going to be 1 plus 0.65. Okay. 1 plus 0.65. So it's like $1.65. What is $1.65 equal to? $1.65. So 1.65. And so what does that mean? That means that 1 and 13 over 20 is equal to what? 1.65. 1.65. So which one is greater? Is 1.065 greater than 1.65? Which one is greater? What do you think? 1.065 or 1.65, or are they the same? Well, let's see. So we have 1 and 1, so they are equal in that sense, in the ones place. And then we have here, we have 0 for the 10th place. And then we have 6 for the same 10th place. So which one is bigger? Well, 6 is bigger than 0. We don't have to check any other numbers. This one is bigger. The 1 and 13 over 20. Okay? All right, the last one before we close, before we end the video, is the square root of 1 and 1 squared. The square root of 1 and 1 squared. The square root of 1 and 1 squared. What is 1 squared? Well, 1 squared is equal to 1 times 1. That's 1 squared equal to 1 times 1 is equal to what? 1. Okay. So that's what 1 squared is. 1 squared is equal to 1. So bear that in mind. Now, what is the square root of 1? Now, you can go on your calculator and figure that out, but the square root of 1 is just 1. And I'm gonna show you in the calculator, the square root of 1 is 1. But 1 times 1 is 1. So the square root of 1 is definitely gonna be 1. But to verify with you, we can go to the calculator to show you. So um, let's go to the calculator. What do we said? We said 1 squared. 1 squared is what? 1 times 1, and 1 times 1 is what? 1. Good. And then we have the square root of 1. The square root of 1. What's the square root of 1? The square root of 1 is 1. And so what do we have now? We have, let's go back. We have the square root of 1 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. And so that means that these are equal. These are equal. These are equal. This may be the last one. Let's check. Okay, this may be the last one. Let's see if there's any other ones that we have to do. Nope, that is the last one indeed. So I want to say thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.